Welcome to the Dumbass Squared podcast. I'm Violet, your stupid host.
And I'm Izzy, your even stupider host.
And we're just two gals being pals.
Talking about anything and everything.
Woohoo!
Yay! This is episode 5,
Wow.
by the way. After another unannounced hiatus, which we are going to ignore.
Yeah, whose fault is that, huh?
Listen!
You were a bad business partner. I'm gonna fire you. I'm gonna find a new co-host.
You know what? You will never find a co-host as good as me, so shut the hell up.
Okay.
Anyway, so what are we going to talk about today, Violet? I realize that you're still your own.
Well, I think you'll really like this episode, Izzy, because you're a fucking nerd. And you really like history. So
I do.
We're gonna talk about all of the things. Wait, that's very broad history. Okay, you specify.
Okay. I'll take over a little bit from here because you have no idea what I'm going to talk about.
No idea.
Yeah, no, because anyway, I'm not talking about all of history. That would require me sitting here for at least 4 hours with Violet falling asleep, probably midway, and everybody else as well. So we're not gonna do that. Instead, we have narrowed it down, or I've narrowed it down, to the Tudor era and the Victorian era. Why am I skipping
that matter?
No. Why am I skipping the eras in between? I don't know. Why am I skipping the eras before? I don't know. But that's just what we're focusing on.
Okay.
Mostly because it's a plug for a lot of stuff for us. So.
Yeah, like
my Tumblr.
Yes. Go follow Hysterical-Histories on Tumblr. Oh my god, it's where Izzy writes about historical things. And
if I ever updated it, thank you, school.
Yeah.
I love you. But no, I do plan to post the second part of the Crusades on there sometime.
Sure.
But listen, it takes forever to write one of those paragraphs because apparently I don't know what not including details is.
Okay.
So
yeah, you go really extra on those.
Yeah, I do. And Violet told me, she was like, I don't like reading long paragraphs. And I was like, and I just made you read one. Okay, great. Okay. Great, you love that.
Yeah, go follow it, y'all.
Yeah, I'm gonna make Violet put it in the description because I can.
Obviously.
I'm her best friend, and she basically gives into my every will.
That's scary.
If I ever ask for anything, though, because I never do that, so
I will not admit that because it's scary. But sure,
it's sure, whatever. Okay, ignore the fact that people so obviously do that.
Okay.
Anyway,
go. Yeah, you have your script where you talk about everything. You'll be the teacher now. I will be the student. I will not.
Yeah.
You go carry this whole podcast.
I'm honestly, I'm gonna ask you questions and you better remember stuff.
No, this is like school. I haven't been in school for a year.
I'm gonna randomly be in the middle of a sentence and we're like, all right, Violet, when did the Tudor period end?
Oh god. Okay, I will. Okay, because you said that, I will make sure to pay attention now.
Just wait until I start quizzing her on the Trojan of Queen Victoria. Oh boy!
Oh no! Okay. Who? Let's go. Okay, Izzy. Good morning, Izzy.
Yay! Okay, so we start with my 3-page script
on
the Tudor period. We love Violet. It's been like, oh god.
Okay.
So basically, okay, I was going somewhere and then I'm not, and then okay. Anyway, so the Tudor period basically began with like the end of the War of the Roses, which was an ongoing war from 1455 to 1485 for the English throne.
Wow.
Because, so there were two houses, the Lancaster house with the red rose, and the York house with the white rose, and they were both arguing against who got the English throne because of, like, in simplified terms, descendants. Like, they didn't know who was supposed to get the throne after,
it's
like...
really complicated.
Yeah, it's a very complicated and convoluted family tree, which I'm not necessarily going to get into because I've been given an hour to talk about this. So, anyway, Tudor era basically began in 1485 when the war ended, and it started with the monarch of Henry VII, who ruled from 1485 to 1509. Now, unlike the previous government, quote unquote, his was kind of, like, really efficient. And I say kind of because, like, I mean, I don't get into extreme detail, but, like, stuff happens, and it's not... Like what? He kind of becomes a tyrant.
Oh, okay.
More like, it's weird. So, anyway, he comes in and he becomes a new monarch, and he calls Parliament, and he's like, okay, I'm king now, great. Now, the entire time he was a monarch, Henry VII only called Parliament 7 times. The first one being the one where he told them, I'm the king, by the way. So, just so we know, just so we're clear.
Okay.
So, now, the reason he did this is because he didn't have... Money was a very big issue. And so, like, he was sitting on a very unstable throne. Because, like, the Yorks could basically take over at any time. Or he could be overthrown and whatnot.
They didn't already, like, integrate?
No. They would integrate later in 1486. But, like, a year later. But even then, it was still very unstable. Because Yorks didn't like the idea of a Lancastrian king. And, like, vice versa. So, he basically, he exploited every loophole that existed in, like, whatever, in, like, the laws. Because he realized that if he needed to raise taxes or create a new tax, he would have to talk to Parliament, which could cause more instability in this very...
Wait. I'm dumb. I've been sitting here, like, listening to you, and I'm like, what's Parliament? What is it?
Okay, so Parliament, in simplest terms, I feel so bad for, like, everybody who lives in England and is just going to flame me for getting this all wrong.
Yeah, like my girlfriend.
Yeah, like Charlotte and Gail, who are just gonna be like, that's wrong, by the way. And I'm gonna be like, well, you know, I tried, okay? Give me a break. But how do I explain this without people getting mad at me? Because, like, I don't
go to the dictionary.
I don't know how to describe it because I just know what it is.
Search Parliament on dictionary. It says Parliament is a noun, a formal conference for the discussion of public affairs, a council of state in early medieval England. Okay, I get it now.
Okay, well, it's not early. Just, I mean, you still have Parliament now, but okay.
Okay, cool.
But
I get it.
In simplest terms, it's like
public affairs people.
Yeah, like they get together. There's like this group of important people, important quotations, and they talk, basically.
Okay. So go on.
So yeah. So like I said, Henry VII was like really worried about creating more instability on the throne. So he only called Parliament very few times because he didn't want to, you know, like ask for more taxes and stuff.
Yeah.
But like, so he saved all of his money that he had, and like he never used it, basically. So like, if there was a source of revenue, he was going to take it and he was going to protect it.
Okay.
And like I said, like beforehand with the Yorkist predecessors, his problem was his legitimacy in the claim to the throne. So they were like, do you really deserve the throne or do you not? It was very messy. But anyway,
okay.
He married Elizabeth of York on January 18th of 1486, which combined the Lancaster and York houses to create the Tudor household, which is the red and white rose that you will see when talking about the Tudor era. Also, side note, I didn't mention this before, but if you watch Game of Thrones, it is actually based on the War of the Roses, which is why the Lancaster family is in Game of Thrones.
Wow, so cool.
So, there's your extra bit of knowledge there.
Wow. Good job.
But like I said, Henry VII was like an extremely paranoid king because of this. Yes. And there were several rebellions. Oof. Most of them, bar two, only two of them weren't. But most of them were caused by Yorkists who were like, you don't, deserve to be king. Okay. Whatever. So, and she signed a couple of treaties, like the Treaty of Medina, which I probably butchered because it's French and I can't speak French, in 1489. And then a rebellion sparked from that called the Yorkshire Rebellion. So yay, so much fun. Oof. Also, he has a son. No, it's not the one you're thinking of. He has a son named Arthur, who becomes a prince. Okay. Like, that's his first son. And in 1489, when he was like 2, King Henry VII signs the Treaty of Medina del Campo in 1489. And it was a marriage treaty, so it was to settle the alliance between Spain and England. So basically, it promised that Arthur was going to be married to Catherine of Aragon when he reached suitable age. Okay. Now, if you are any bit like me, which means you are interested in history, Catherine of Aragon is a name that shall reappear in a little bit. Violet already knows why, but if you don't, stay tuned. Okay. Obviously. So, he kind of had one of the best economies in the Tudor period. Because he kind of, saved a lot of money, and, despite that making everybody, kind of angry, it was actually pretty good for the economy, and there were a lot of jobs. But anyway, time moves on, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. In 1502, Arthur and Catherine of Aragon get married. And then he dies 6 months later. So now, the alliance between Spain and England has been butchered. Wait. Henry had another son. Henry VIII. And so then he was like, okay, extra son, you get to marry this much older woman. Extra son. Well, okay, look. Basically, Arthur was... What was their age difference? I'm actually not quite sure. I think she was older than him. I want to say 10 years. I'm not quite sure. Okay. But anyway, so his spare son was like, okay, now you're gonna marry Catherine of Aragon. Alright. And so then the next year, in 1503, Elizabeth dies. Who is Elizabeth? Oh, the wife? Yes, the wife. Rip. 15 what? 1503. Okay, rip. The next year. Rip. Everyone's rip. Dying. That's in the chat. No. Okay. Okay, anyway, I'm gonna stop now. Then, 6 years later, in 1509, Henry VII dies.
Oh.
And Henry VIII ascends to the throne.
Mm.
And he married Catherine of Aragon 2 months after his father's death and was crowned king at 18.
Okay. Wait.
And actually,
wait. Sorry.
Go.
I was talking about Henry, I think, with Charlotte last night, and I was really sleepy, and I was like, "Oh, Henry Tudor," and then she was like, "Henry Tutor," like it's so dumb. Henry Tudor. You see?
Okay.
Okay.
Violet, time for your first question.
Okay.
When did King Henry VII marry Elizabeth of York?
1489?
What? 6.
You didn't? Okay. Sure. Alright.
And don't even say nothing because I did say the year.
Okay. Okay, Izzy.
Anyway.
Get an S.
So, despite when we think of Henry VIII, we typically think of that giant, fat, tyrannical king. But in reality, in his youth, he was quite handsome in Tudor standings. He was a very generous king. He wrote poems and plays and threw parties all the time. There was a downfall to this. He was spending a lot of money.
Oof.
And his advisors were like, he's spending a lot of money.
Rip.
Yeah. But besides all that, Henry wanted to be known as the warrior king. So he kept asking his advisors to let him conquest France. And they wouldn't let him. They were like, no, you cannot conquest France. Like, a civil war just happened, like, a couple years, like 20 years ago. Don't start anything else. And then, this man, Cardinal Wolsey, comes in, and he's like, you know you can do whatever you want, right? And Henry's like, what? He's like, you're the king. You can do whatever you want. And so Henry's like, oh yeah, I am the king. I can do whatever I want.
Okay.
So what happens then is that Wolsey basically starts helping him with different types of laws by making sure that his advisors don't have to sign anything for it to be passed. So like he can do anything. And Henry continued partying before he eventually went to France and started winning. He actually won a lot of battles.
Wow.
And meanwhile, Catherine of Aragon was off near Scotland fighting her own battles because the Scottish were like getting very antsy and they would like, I don't like this. And she rode in full armor into battle while pregnant. And I think that's just a little cool tidbit.
That is like metal.
Right. So, okay. Anyway, Henry comes back because he basically runs out of money.
Mm-hmm.
Which was destined to happen because he kept spending it all. And he's like, oh, I'm gonna have a son as an heir, and I'm gonna be alright, and Aragon is like, it's a daughter, and he's like, what? What do you mean?
Cancelled.
And he's like, yeah, it's a daughter, it's not a son. And he's like,
I do not see. He's like, what daughter?
He's like, Aragon is like, this is Mary, and he's like, that's a weird name for a son, and she's like, it's a girl, that's why. And he's like, oh shit. So anyway, in Mary's young life, he was very loving towards her, but it was like as the years went on, and Catherine still wasn't producing a male heir. He was like, nah.
Oof, with the miscarriages.
Yes. And she did have a couple of stillborns too. I believe she had 2, if I'm correct.
Sad.
But anyway, his eyes start to wander because Catherine isn't producing him an heir, and she's running out of childbearing years. So his eyes start going towards Anne Boleyn, one of Catherine's lady-in-waitings.
Oh. Wow. Whore.
Shut up.
I mean, Henry.
I'm like, I mean, she's known as a whore in history, but those are false accusations. But anyway, so he starts falling for Anne, and he starts writing her letters, and he's like, I love you.
Simp.
Yeah, he becomes a simp. And Anne is like, and Anne keeps getting all these letters, and she's like, no, I'm not gonna be your mistress, but I'll be your queen. And he's like, why can't you just be my mistress like your sister was? And she's like, yeah, not gonna be your mistress, but I'll be your queen. And so he's like, well, fuck, okay. Now, the interesting thing is he was actually a devout Catholic all of his life, despite the divorce to Aragon.
Oh, wow.
In 1534, and, like, I just find that pretty funny. Like, you say you're
He's such a simp that he would, like, break away from his religion.
Yeah.
Basically.
And even when he died, he was still pretty devoutly Catholic, which is just so weird. But anyway, so now, obviously, it took a long time for the divorce to get through, because Aragon was like, no.
What
the fuck are you talking about? No!
Yeah, I would feel the same way.
And what was happening at the time was, okay, so basically, he talks to Worsley, right?
Worsley.
Yes. Worsley.
What a stupid name. Oh my god, imagine me named Worsley. What a loser. Okay.
Right. And so now, Catherine has this, I believe, nephew, if I'm correct, Charles V, who, by the way, if you didn't know, is a part of the Habsburg family, which means he was a product of inbreeding, and he had a really big chin. It is a whole different level of...
Alright.
It is a whole different level.
Yeah.
So anyway, Charles V has the Pope under his thumb right now.
Under his thumb.
And, like, what had happened is they had originally been allies.
Okay.
And stuff. And, like, you know, with trying to defeat France. And so, eventually, Charles wins the fight, and Henry is like, do I get the French throne? And Charles is like, no. And he's like, what do you mean, no? And Charles was also promised to marry Mary as well.
Okay.
Because, like, there was a whole...
Wait. This is probably derailing, like, the discussion, but, like, Henry wanted to be also the king of France? So, like, how would that work?
Pretty much what was going on was they were fighting over France because they wanted to overthrow the French government, so, like, they could own land there.
Oh, so it would become England too?
Yeah, it would be a part of England as well.
Oh, okay.
And Charles was like, no, you don't get any land. And Henry was, and then he was like, oh, so I don't want to marry your daughter. Like, I don't like her anymore. And Henry's like, would you look at your chin, man? What the fuck is that? What the fuck is that? What do you mean?
Henry roasting him? Oh my god.
He's like,
oh my
god. What the fuck do you mean?
Okay.
But anyway.
Yeah, put away your chinny chin boy.
Yeah, and he's like,
okay.
This is a chin for a strong boy. I'm like, yeah, right, okay.
God. Okay.
So anyway, he asked Worsley, hey, I need to get an annulment from Catherine because I want to marry this other girl.
Wow.
And but he's like, keep it on the down low. I don't want this to be a scandal. Worsley just basically sends a letter to the Pope, and he's like, hey, my dude Henry wants a divorce. And of course, because the Pope is trapped under the thumb of Charles right now,
yeah,
Charles finds out, and then, like, the rest of Europe finds out, and Henry's like, what
scandal
the fuck,
moment.
man? Fuck. And then, despite all of that, the Pope is like, no. I mean, obviously there's more to it than that, and somebody was sent over from the Holy Roman Empire, and, like, Henry kept trying to talk to him about it, and he just kept saying that he was feeling bad, he was feeling sick, and in the end he was like, no, you can't divorce your wife.
Yeah, what the hell?
And because Worsley couldn't do anything about this, he fell out of the king's graces, and he got ill, and then he died.
Oof. Well, that's what you get.
But honestly, it's a much better ending than Cromwell, who I'll get to in a bit.
Okay.
Because
yes, get to it later.
Cromwell. This is when Thomas Cromwell immediately rises to power. A little bit afterwards.
Who is he? First of all,
he's like a very important advisor to King Henry VIII for a long time.
Yes.
So, because this is all happening in 1532. And he rises to power because, like, hey, remember, you're the king. You can do whatever you want.
Okay.
And so Henry's like, yeah, I am the king. And he basically says, all right, fuck you, Pope. Despite being very loyal to him in the past, he's like, fuck you, I'm going to start my own Protestant church.
Wow.
I'm the head of it.
You could just do that before. Yeah. Wow.
And, like, Cromwell helps him with that. He's like, you're going to start a Protestant Anglican church.
Oh my god. Okay. Alright.
So then he marries Boleyn in 1533. Really? Yes. And she gives...
So he got the annulment.
Yes, he gets the annulment, and he marries Anne Boleyn in secret, by the way.
I mean, that's rough for Aragon, because haven't they been together for, like, 24 years? 24 years.
Oof. And she gives him Elizabeth that very same year. Now, because he gets married to Anne Boleyn, he basically kicks Catherine out of court, and he says that Mary, his previous daughter, is no longer in the line of succession, and that she can no longer see her mother.
What the hell? Asshole.
And the English people are very mad about this because they thought Catherine was their rightful queen.
Yeah, because she's an Anne.
Right. And, like, Catherine had been king for 24 years, and most of England at this time was Catholic.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody was like, what the fuck? And they called Anne Boleyn a homewrecker and a whore.
Well, I mean... Okay.
I'm sipping my tea at that. Anyway. So they're married, and then in 1536, Henry was a very athletic man in his youth.
Really?
Yes, he was. He liked to hunt. He did a lot of jousting.
Okay.
And so, in 1536, when jousting, he gets an injury because he falls off his horse, and supposedly he gets brain damage, which is what historians think caused him to fall more into tyranny than he had. Yeah. Which they also think that explains his mood swings and why he got so upset and angry all the time.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Yeah, because, like, I was wondering, because, like, right, I know about his other wives, but, like, how did that 24 years with Catherine of Aragon, like, uneventful, but then the next, like, wives, like, wow.
Yeah, he, like, goes to full-on raging madman.
Jesus.
Okay, and then that very same year, and I could get into the details of this with the power struggle, supposedly, between Cromwell and Boleyn, and her downfall, but that would take me talking about the 6 wives of Henry VIII in detail about their lives, and that's a whole nother story for a whole another episode, possibly. I really don't know. So anyway, she is charged with adultery, incest, and witchcraft, which were all false, by the way, and her brother was beheaded before because that's who supposedly she committed incest with. So on May 19th, 1536, which at the time of this recording will be tomorrow, or today in Violet standards, she was beheaded, and Henry married Jane Seymour the very next day.
The next day? I thought it was like a couple of days or weeks.
It was either the very next day or 11 days. I think it might have been 11 days. Yeah. I can't quite. I think it was 11 days though. But anyway.
Yeah.
So, okay, now, Henry was a king, right?
Yeah.
So, and he was very rich, so he ate a lot of meat, which was he ate basically 5,000 calories a day.
Alright. Wow.
Which is,
I want that to be
that's a lot. Now, because of his jousting injuries, he received several ulcers on his legs, so he couldn't really do much anymore. So, basically, he ate, and he grew overweight. Nice. And also, side note, the ulcers would actually start to ooze pus later.
What the fuck?
Because they were not being taken care of.
That is disgusting.
Yeah.
Oh god.
So, mostly, the marriage between Jane and Henry was an okay one. Now, Jane, who was Catholic, actually asked Henry if she would reconcile with the church and, like, reinstate missionaries. And Henry flat out told her, remember what happened to Anne? And Jane just stood up after that. She was like, okay, I guess we're not going that way anymore.
Oof.
But anyway, in October of 1537, Jane gives birth to a baby boy, Edward. But she would die several days later in complications. Jane is actually buried next to King Henry as of now, and he truly mourned her death.
Yeah, because she's the only one who gave him a son.
Yes, exactly. If she had not given him a son, I am very sure she could have probably met the same fate as Anne.
Probably.
So then,
it's kind of It's kind of sad that like the only remarkable characteristic of Jane Seymour in history is just the fact that she gave Henry a son. Like that's her only purpose.
So anyway, Henry goes in the morning, and Cromwell arranges another marriage for him. Marriage to Anne of Cleves, who's from Germany.
So far.
And so Henry's like, is she pretty? And Cromwell is like, yes, she's very pretty. And he's like, okay. So what happens is Anne of Cleves arrives by boat, not knowing like a lick of English. Henry dresses up as a peasant, and at this point he's fat, he's overweight, and he has ulcers on his leg. And he jumps out at Anne of Cleves and is like trying to kiss her, and she's like, what the fuck? Get away from me.
Harassment moment.
So Henry gets butthurt over this, and he's like, she's ugly. What the fuck, Cromwell? What do you mean? She's fucking ugly. Which, by the way, according to like German standards and what I read, she was very pretty, supposedly.
Yeah.
And she also has a portrait of her. She had to do it to him.
Yes, it's my favorite.
Yes, it is. Violet's favorite portrait, I think.
Yes.
So Henry divorced her after 6 months, and then he beheaded Cromwell in 1540.
Oof.
Now, despite like what people may think about Anne of Cleves and whatnot, she actually got to live a very luxurious life in a palace in Richmond, and Henry would often refer to her as a sister and would give her lots of money because he wanted a quick divorce and did not want to go to war with Germany. So
that went well.
Yes. So a little while later, he marries Catherine Howard.
Oh.
And I'm gonna mention this. She was supposedly 17. We really don't know. None of their ages are very well documented because that documents were kind of on date, like on birth and deaths were obviously not a thing. And he was 49. And I'm saying this because yes, that is a huge age difference. Yes, if you are uncomfortable, good for you. Also, everybody else in the English court was uncomfortable at that, because they were also like, what the fuck?
Ugh.
So, obviously, Catherine
It's horrible.
is obviously so satisfied with her husband, who is overweight and so much older than her and has ulcers.
Yes. She's so complacent.
Yeah,
and
so,
content.
obviously. So, eventually, she would be beheaded for treason and adultery, because she had an affair with Thomas Culpeper, which actually right now is being thrown into question by a lot of historians. And, I mean, I suppose it really has always been in question because of blackmail.
Yeah.
And
Not have been consensual.
yeah. There was a lot of blackmail on Catherine, because of previous quote unquote sexual affairs. It was actually molestation.
Yep.
By the way, just so you know.
Right.
And she was killed in 1542 on February the 13th at the supposed age of 19. Again, we don't know when she really died.
Is that
So
Valentine's?
she was. No, it's the day before Valentine's.
Ah, okay.
About a year later, in 1543, he would marry Catherine Parr. Now, Parr actually did a lot in like with Mary and Elizabeth, and because she would convince Henry to restore his two daughters to the line of succession.
Mm-hmm.
Because they had been banned after after Edward was born. He was like, okay, I'm set. But Catherine managed to convince him to restore them. But she was nearly beheaded for disagreeing with him over religion.
How did she get out?
She managed to say, I wasn't arguing against you, I was learning from you. So when the guards came to arrest her for treason, Henry was like, get the fuck out, don't worry about it.
Wow. She really dodged that.
She dodged by an inch. She really did nearly get beheaded.
God.
So then Henry gets sick, and he kind of gets ill, and he's fat, and he's old, and whatever. So yeah, then in 1544, despite an injury, and despite several men having to lift him in a crane, or the English equivalent,
oh god,
the Tudor equivalent of a crane, onto a horse, dead ass.
Oh my god.
He went to go conquest France again, and it nearly bankrupted England.
Oh my god.
And finally, in 1547, he would die. Finally.
Wow, finally.
Yeah. So,
how
after
old was
him, he was, I think he was 51.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, then Edward the Sixth takes over, and he ruled from 1547 to 1553. And most of what's known from his rule is just changes in religion. Protestant churches were made more plain compared to the Catholic churches with stained glass windows.
He died very young.
Yeah, he did. He died at the age of 15.
Right.
He was making England more Protestant. All masses were converted to English instead of Latin, and a new Bible was created. And then he died at the age of 53, and he tried to reinstate.
The age of 53.
15.
Okay.
15. He dies in 1553, but wait.
Yeah.
Yeah, he dies in 1553.
Okay.
So, instead of him giving the throne to Mary, because Mary is a devout Catholic, he's like, nah, fuck that. And he gives his cousin, Lady Jane Grey, the throne. And she's queen for 9 days before Mary comes in, and everybody's cheering for Mary because she is the rightful queen, because she is the daughter of Catherine of Aragon. The people adored Aragon.
Yes.
So they were like, the rightful queen is back. And there was an uprising, and Mary had Lady Jane Grey beheaded. Oof. And she was 15 at the time of her death.
Oh no. Just like Edward.
Yeah. And Mary was determined to make England Catholic. And because of that, she would often burn Protestants at the stake. She burned more than 300 people in 5 years.
Oh my god.
And she would marry Philip II of Spain, who was not very popular among the English people, and that is a very light way of putting it. They really didn't like him.
Oh.
And she adored him, and he didn't love her. That's great.
Oh.
She would also undo a lot of laws that Edward had put in.
Ow.
And then she thought she was pregnant at 38. But it turns out she wasn't. It was just a phantom pregnancy.
Ow.
And that made the people all the more untrusting of her. Then she had her sister Elizabeth arrested in 1554 for treason because of a rebellion against Mary. And despite having no involvement in it, Mary just had Elizabeth arrested, though she was released pretty quickly. And then...
Okay.
Then 4 years later, Mary dies, supposedly from ovarian cancer. And Elizabeth takes the throne. You can notice I'm going much quicker through this.
Yes, because you only have 20 minutes left.
Okay, listen. I managed to finish the entire the rest of King Henry's reign, and 2 of his children in 10 minutes. You gotta give me props.
Okay.
Okay. What year did Mary I die?
1558?
Yes.
Okay.
You're correct. You get no prize, but...
When do I ever get a prize?
Being my friend is a prize.
Shut the fuck up.
Okay. Anyway, so I'm gonna keep it very short on Elizabeth because I could honestly talk about Elizabeth's reign for hours and hours.
Maybe you can have a part 2.
Yeah, and I'm that would take a whole... I could legitimately have a whole episode just talking about Elizabeth I's reign. As well as Elizabeth II. You know what? That's not a bad idea. Mark that down. Anyway, so Elizabeth reigned from 1558 to 1603. Mm-hmm. She ended the Tudor dynasty because she never married, though she might have had a romantic relationship with, I believe, a man named Robert Dudley, though that has never been confirmed nor denied, so we really don't know. James I of England, or... Hold on. I have to look at my Roman numerals. I can't speak. Hello. Or James VI of Scotland would become king after her. Mary, Queen of Scots, her cousin, would be executed because she tried to plot against her and kill her. Oh. Honestly, everybody kind of wanted to kill Elizabeth.
Why? But wasn't she, the best?
Yes, but, also, a lot of people were not, because she was Protestant. So,
right.
People were
was Catholic.
Yeah. Though, the fine arts were fucking thriving, my man.
Hell yeah.
Shakespeare, they were just
the Renaissance painters?
Yes. And the Spanish Armada was defeated 3 times under her rule.
Hell yeah.
Elizabeth was just a
boss.
She made English enter a golden age.
She's a boss. Yes.
That's probably why she got the nickname Good Queen Bess. Or the Virgin Queen.
Yes.
Hey, now we move on to the Victorian era. And the Edwardian era. And I know Violet's sighing at this because she knows exactly what's going to come next.
Right.
Right, Violet?
I'm ready.
You ready? Do you want to introduce some more?
No. I'm lazy.
You're so valid. Anyway, Violet is
if you can hear that my dog is crying outside, I'm really sorry. It's because it's thundering and he's a little pussy.
He's a little bitch.
Yeah. So I apologize. Okay, go ahead, Izzy.
Anyway, because Violet is too lazy to introduce them, I get to introduce our OCs respectively, on the Edwardian and Victorian era. I literally forgot what era.
Oh my
was
god,
Lydia.
you did us.
And I'm like,
are you for
literally
real?
about to talk to it.
Oh my god. Okay, go.
But, so...
Yeah.
Edward and Victoria, we love them.
Mm-hmm.
And...
they're dumb.
Yes, they are dumb. And then Elise and Victor, respectively, on the opposite end of the spectrum. Victor and Elise are from the lower classes in those eras, and Victoria and Edward are from the high class.
Yes.
But that doesn't mean their lives aren't full of angst.
It's your fault, Izzy. You know, when I first started this, like, these OCs, I was just having fun. I wanted to have fun with them because, like, oh, they're fancy, but now you're, like, giving them trauma.
Now I'm like, Victoria's father killed her siblings when she was 5.
Oh my god.
And Violet's just like, why?
When I first heard that, I was just, like, speechless. And I was, like, in hysterics because, like, what the fuck is wrong with you, Izzy?
Because Violet was like, you should add a little bit of angst to Victoria's life. I know you want to. And I was like, her father murdered her siblings.
And I was like, no! Oh god.
But,
never
yeah.
changed.
I'm not. Not anytime soon. Well. So anyway. I'm not going to change anytime soon.
Okay.
So anyway. On to the Victorian era. Now I really have to rush because now I have like 10 minutes left. So, 15?
Yeah.
Okay, I feel like I can talk a little bit slower because I was rushing through like the whole Tudor thing. Anyway, so Queen Victoria became the Queen of England on June 20th, 1837, and she would end up ruling till 1901.
Oh. That's a lot.
Also, by the way, I never told you when the Tudor era ended, and it ended in 1603 with the death of Elizabeth.
Oh.
I'm sorry, but like I totally forgot to cover that for some reason. Anyway, back to the Victorian era. So she rules until 1901, and she ends up marrying her cousin Albert von Saxon-Coburg. I feel like I butchered that. And they have...
Princess.
And they... Okay. Yeah. And they get married on the 10th of February of 1840, and they end up having 9 perfectly, actually, kind of normal children.
Oh, 9.
9. Basically, the reasoning behind that was Albert's parents were like, if you keep her weak by getting her pregnant, she'll be weak, and then she can't really learn how to be queen.
What the fuck? It's horrible.
Yeah, and Queen Victoria was very hormonal and depressive during pregnancy, so like...
That is horrible.
Yeah. So she had 9 children, and Albert would end up becoming her closest advisor. They were really head over heels for each other. I like how Violet just takes a breath, like...
I don't want to think about this.
Too bad you're gonna have to. So, because he comes back into play later.
Okay.
And you know what? Quit going... Because technically, Elizabeth II, the current queen, is married to her, like, second cousin? Third?
Do you think I care about Elizabeth II? Like, currently, in this world, where, like, I want to eat the rich, and I hate capitalists?
Well, I mean, she is rich.
Exactly. Okay. Okay.
Okay, anyway. So, the Victorian era was a time of rapid growth and new inventions all around the world, and this period was known as the Industrial Revolution.
However, died, but not of the plague. Of their stupidity.
Yeah, of a lot of other things. Also, by the way, if you have not watched it, go watch 24 Hours in the Past. It's a really good show.
Hell yeah.
And it represents the poorer life of the Victorian era instead of the romanticized stuff we think of today.
Yes.
And it is an extremely good series.
Yeah, it has like 4 episodes. They're all like 1 hour long. I made Izzy watch it with me one time, and it was just like awesome, great. Amazing.
It was honestly just us screaming in a chat together, talking about like friendships and shit they had to go through.
Yeah, and like the cast and like one person that like we really
this one person that we all hated.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, go watch it, y'all.
Yeah, just go watch it.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, in 1845, a financial crisis begins in England because and poverty was on the rise, and so was unemployment, which was a big problem. And it wasn't really until Albert's death that Victoria ever really engaged in the social policies of this.
Mm.
And I feel like a lot of people will call her out on that, and like, yeah, you have every right to call her out on that because she kind of like pushed back women's education and stuff.
Rip.
But then again, she was raised the way she was raised was very strict under this dude. And like I don't remember his name. I'm sorry. And frankly I don't really care about him. I don't like him.
Okay. And
he raised her and her mother very strictly, and she basically had a horrible childhood with no friends. It's honestly kind of sad.
Oof.
And she spent a lot of her time learning. But anyway, under Victoria's rule, the British Empire quadrupled in size, and while she hated it, she stood up for military reform and provided improvements of sanitary conditions in hospitals during the Crimean War.
Hell yeah.
Which lasted from 1853 to 1856 against Russia. And if you know me, you will know that when I talk about sanitary conditions in the 1800s, I will get very triggered. Just ask. I'm sure we will do another episode all on the Civil War, where Violet will keep goading me into like certain things, and I will keep getting angry.
Yeah, you're very particular about that.
Right. Then, in 1861, tragedy struck, and it struck hard. First off, her mother died in May, and Victoria was not necessarily close to her mother, but she did, because Victoria wrote a lot in a bunch of journals, like, and which is why we know a lot about her life. Well, kind of. I'll explain later. And she did state that she wished that she had been closer and spent more time with her mother as she aged. And then, that same year, Albert became very sick and died in December at 42 years old.
Well,
he was 42. And that flipped Victoria's life around, because like I said, she was basically head over heels for him. And she vanished from the public eye for like 13 years. And the people started to doubt her a lot, because they really didn't know what was going on with her. But she did stay informed on current events, and she still did. But she was like never seen in Parliament. So
wow.
Then eventually, after some like this guy named Benjamin. I think his name is Benjamin.
Benjamin
talks to her, yeah, and he's like, okay, you need, and Benjamin respects her, and she really appreciates that. Yes, respect. And after he manages to convince her to come back to the public view, and everybody was extremely happy, and they became loyal to her again. I mean, they were never strictly unloyal. They were doubtful, and they started loving her again, and she was welcomed back to fanfare, and
love that for her.
Yes, and she's known as the grandmother of Europe because of her children. Her family ties extend to places like Spain, Italy, Greece, Russia.
Ooh, wow.
Like Norway, Sweden, all over the place.
Cool.
It's very impressive.
Yeah, that's what happens when you're a boomer. But not
right.
Really.
Yeah. Sadly, she would die on the 22nd of January in 1901, and the whole of England went into mourning. And somebody stated on the day of her death, "It feels like we have lost a mother today."
Aww.
I mean, and in reality, she kind of was. I mean,
Yeah.
Also,
she's been like queen for so long. I mean,
yes, she was queen for 63 years and is the
wow.
second longest reigning monarch and was only surpassed by her great-great-granddaughter, the current Queen of England, Elizabeth II, in 2015.
Wow.
Also, Queen Elizabeth II is still alive and kicking, and
she's like,
I
okay,
I
cool.
love her, and she doesn't get to die. Okay, she just doesn't get to die.
Okay.
I'm sorry, she's an immortal. Too bad.
Yeah.
Deal with it. Even if I don't agree with everything that she does. But like,
eat the rich, eat the rich. Okay.
Violet, shut the fuck up. Anyway, so I'm kind of gonna go over her 9 children, even though I'm technically done here. So her first child was Princess Victoria Adelaide Mary Louise, who would marry the Friedrich Wilhelm of Prussia, who would become Emperor of Germany, and their son, Kaiser Wilhelm of was like very important in World War I, and their daughter Sophie would become Queen of Greece.
Mm-hmm.
Prince Albert Edward would succeed his mother as king,
yes,
which would bring on the Edwardian era.
For 10 years?
Yes, for like 10 years.
Okay.
9, because technically the Victorian era ended in 1901.
Okay.
And through Edward, Queen Elizabeth II would be born eventually.
Wow.
So.
Nice. Awesome.
Right.
Great.
The third child was Princess. No, there are 9, and I barely covered 2.
Okay.
Princess Alice Maud Mary was their third child, who would marry Prince Ludwig of Hesse, and their daughter Alexandra, or Alex, married Nicholas II, the last Tsar of Russia, and they are the famous Romanov family who met a very bloody fate.
Ooh.
Their fourth kid was Prince Alfred Ernst Albert, who also married into the Russian bloodline. Their fifth child was Princess Helena Augusta Victoria, who would marry Prince Frederick Christian of Schleswig-Holstein. I'm very sure I am butchering that, but their sixth child was Princess Louise Carolina Alberta, and she married a commoner back when it was like really, really uncommon. But it's uncommon now, but like it was really uncommon then.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, she has a lot of ties to Canada. Like, the province of Alberta and the famous Lake Louise are both named after her.
Hell yeah.
Their seventh child, Prince Arthur William Patrick, was the Queen's favorite son. Wow.
Why wasn't he king?
Because Edward was older than him.
Okay.
And he married Princess Louise Margaret of Prussia, and they had 3 children. He also had a lot to do with Canada.
Canada.
Then their 8th child was Leopold George Duncan. And he would die at age 30. He would die at age 30 because of hemophilia.
What is that?
Hemophilia is a disease of the blood where basically your blood can't clot. And the son of the Romanov family, Alexa, suffered from this as well. Oof. And it was passed on by Queen Victoria, which she refused to believe.
Mm-hmm.
And their last child, and their 9th child, was Princess Beatrice Mary Victoria. And as the baby of the family, she became Victoria's biggest confidant.
Wow.
However, she would marry Prince Henry Battenberg, and she would pass on the hemophiliac gene on her daughter, who in turn passed it to the Spanish royal family. And that is all.
Awesome.
Did I manage to do that in time?
Yeah, are you done?
Woo!
Yay! Woohoo! You didn't even get to like the culture, just like the people. Maybe that could be for part 2, you know?
Part 2 is Izzy rambling on about history, but it won't be for a couple of episodes because y'all need a break.
Yeah. Even after had a hiatus.
Yeah.
But I mean.
All right. Before we start, going to like the kazoo cover and everything, who was their first child?
Who? Who is them? Who is there? There's a lot of people you mentioned.
Queen Victoria's first child.
I don't know. It was a girl.
It was a girl. You are correct on that. It was Princess Victoria Adelaide Mary Louise.
Okay. I didn't pay attention to any of the kids.
Yeah. I was expecting you weren't going to do that.
Yeah, I'm like so tired. I've written down everything else. I was taking notes, Izzy. I'm a good student.
Oh, how wonderful. Okay, then when did Victoria become queen?
June 1837.
Actually, you're correct on that. Jesus.
Until 1901. See?
Yeah, you are correct. Okay.
Give me the A.
That Violet is a decent student.
Thank you.
Give
me the gold star. I'm a
gold
good noodle.
Star. You're a good noodle. Don't make me take it away from you though.
Okay.
Anyway, I think since we're I'm finished talking, I think it is time for what is it time for?
The kazoo cover. Hell yeah. So I know what I'm gonna play this time.
Okay.
It'll be very short because I don't know much, but okay, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Yeah.
Yay! We're skipping over the questions because we totally didn't.
We don't have any.
Yeah.
And I think wait. On months ago when we were still having a consistent schedule, I did ask, but now that
yes.
Yeah, gone.
I do, however, remember one being about the wigs being worn.
Oh yeah.
And basically, in France, it was a fashion trend as well as a
sign of power.
Yeah, as well as a way to state your.
Oh my god, that reminds me of that SpongeBob episode where everyone got the wigs.
Oh yeah, and they're living in colonial times.
And then everyone was wearing the wigs.
Yes, that is a great episode.
I think it was SpongeBob. He was like, "Why don't I have a wig? I'm sad." And then he got the wig, but then everyone stopped wearing them. So he's like, "What the hell?"
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Anyway,
are we done, Izzy?
It is. We are done.
You want to formally end your Zoom class?
Thank you for coming to History with Izzy.
Wow.
Like I said, if you're actually interested in what I have to say or history in general, that Tumblr blog, I promise I will post there soon.
Hysterical-Histories. I'm gonna put it in the description.
Yes.
Okay.
I wonder how many people are actually listen to this.
Know.
2.
Cause
and it's gonna. I guarantee you.
Yes.
It's going. I think. I don't know, because Gail somehow manages to get all through these episodes, and
yeah,
that shocks me and Violet every time. So thank you, Gail. We love you.
Yeah, our only stan.
Yeah.
I want to point out this is kind of sad, but on our last episode, the hiatus update, not a lot of people tuned in as much as they used to. So
Rip.
Yeah. Rip.
Well, I don't blame them. We were gone for 2 months.
Yeah, Izzy, and now we're gone again.
Listen,
and now
you can blame school for that.
Okay. So does this mean we're gonna have consistent posting again?
Yes, because school ends next week, and which means I can finally record an episode every week.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, that's it. Thank y'all for tuning in, and we will see you again next week for our mystery episode.
For real
this time.
For our 6th episode.
Our 6th
Okay. Okay. Bye.
Bye.